In an effort to keep these movies under 45 minutes, I'm going to make 2 or 3 sections out of this because I've just got so much to put in here. I don't want people to come away thinking, well, that's just one out of how many. There's so many anomalies with this that I want to sort of be as exhaustive as possible, but I don't want to bore people and limit the views. If you extend the video too long, people won't watch it. So I'm going to put all this stuff here in a part 2, and then I'll have a part 3. I recently made a video in which I pointed out Matthew chapter 16 refers to the total solar eclipse as being the sign that preceded Jonah's preaching in Nineveh. A few people explained to me that that wasn't true. And a few of those said that you could do a Google search and prove it wasn't the truth. Well, 10 years ago, Google was a pretty good way to find information. And if you do a simple search like this, you will find that they're referring to Matthew chapter 12, not chapter 16, as being the sign of Jonah. There is no private interpretation when it comes to the Bible. If you'll read Jonah and you read Matthew, you'll come to find out that I am correct, that the sign that was given to the ancient Babylonians that preceded Jonah's preaching was the total solar eclipse, and that's historically documented. Now, given that recent times, if you do a Google search, you have to pretty much know what you're searching for, or you're going to get bunk for results. So if you put it in this way, you'll get a more accurate result in your search. 10 years ago, you could skip the first 5 results on your pages and get some good information. Nowadays, you're lucky if you query something and return 10 pages. This was a recent NBC nightly news broadcast that you can see right here. I'll mute it and play a little of the video. Anyhow, I cannot prove to you that this video is not taken on Mars, but somewhere in a discrete location here on terra firma Earth. I will simply say this is just another manifestation of what Hitler called the big lie. You have to repeat it over and over and over. I remember as a kid watching Saturday morning cartoons. They would interrupt the cartoon commercial with breaking news. Voyager 1, Voyager 2 is so many billion miles away from Earth. And this has gone on and on and on, and no one can refute it. This video here will refute the big lie. As a ball earther asked me once before, what does it matter if the Earth is flat or round? Couldn't God create either one? The Bible is a flat earth book. No one can deny that. But they've been denying it since the beginning of the 19th century, or the 20th century, if you will, 1900s, 1880s or whatever. They put this stuff in school. I've shown you in the previous video newspaper articles from the late 1800s showing how they will take parents and fine them if they won't let their kid entertain this idea, and then they mock people, and then they pretend like it's been that way for 2,000 years. But really, this goes back to the Jesuits and their doctrine of learning versus learning when they decided, oh, you want to interpret the Bible yourself? Well, here, look at this. The Bible's wrong. And this seed has been implanted for a long time, and it's steadily growing. This is what the Bible refers to as lying signs and wonders, the great falling away. And if those days are not cut short, no flesh would be spared. Jesus said, let no man deceive you by any means. I can't prove this is false, but what I'll show you in this video will prove what these people are telling you about our cosmos is a false claim. And what Jesus said was the only sign given to a wicked generation will be my proof to you, my friend. When you lay it out on a flat earth map which is patented as a time calculator. As far as I know, the Gleason's map is the only one patented as a time calculating device, where you can calculate other places on the earth and what time it is when it's solar noon in your location. You can't do that on a ball earth. It doesn't work. Now we'll show you how the paths of the solar eclipse doesn't work on the ball earth, but does work on the flat earth model. Stay tuned.
Real science is repeatable observations at its core. The analemma of the moon, which is the figure 8 path that it traces out in the sky, and it occurs every month from north to south. The sun does the same thing over the course of 1 year. This is the basis for the story of the 5-degree tilt to account for this movement. The University of Wyoming shows you where the eclipses occur. NASA would claim this area here is the eclipse season. They claim it's a 17-degree window. These are partial eclipses over here, and only here can a total eclipse occur. Now, if you understand the concept of this information, then look here at the EclipseWise website from Fred Ispani that NASA claims is the guru for all the eclipse predictions. He states the solar eclipses of Saros 145 all occur on the moon's ascending node, and the moon moves southward with each eclipse. Now the ascending node, if you look it up, remember this is the August 21st, 2017 eclipse. It's going south, okay? But look here, the lunar node, the ascending or north node is where the moon moves into the northern ecliptic hemisphere, while the descending or south node is where the moon enters the southern ecliptic hemisphere. So for it to be an ascending node means the moon is going north, not south. That's where you find the lies, when it contradicts observations and they are opposite what they should be. That's how you know they're lying to you. But if you don't question these things, you'll never see it.
Here's another oddity that brought to my attention by a comment made by Paulster X. He made hay of the fact that in my last video I mentioned that we were 380 times closer to the sun in the winter when I'm freezing, which makes no sense. Again, this is real science, observations anyone can make. Look here. If we're really only 3% closer to the sun in the winter, would it move this far in the sky? And wouldn't the loops in this figure 8 be more symmetrical or equal? See, when it's in the northern hemisphere on a flat earth map, it would have to trace a smaller circle, right? And it has to cover more ground in the south because it's bigger, correct? That makes sense with what we observe, not our construct. These people that produce this math from this way back in the 1500s with this heliocentric model from the Jesuit order with this doctrine of learning versus learning, trying to tell you the Bible is wrong. Look here, we really smart people figured out with math that really we revolve around the sun. Well, if they were true, then this wouldn't happen. We wouldn't observe this. But see, they couldn't make videotape and time lapse in the 1500s. They didn't know that we could eventually do this and prove with observations that there is no way in hell that we're 3% closer to the fireball, right? Think about it.
This is a good map for people to get in their mind's eye so that they can better quantify how all this stuff supposedly works.
I know it's hard for some to think in 3 dimensions, just as some people are spatially unaware and get lost easily when they go places. So right here, you can see our equator will line up with the ecliptic plane at the equinox in March and September. So this supposed 23-degree tilt is represented here. And here's another map to better illustrate. So the June solstice, you can see it's tilted up north. September, we're realigned with the ecliptic plane represented with the sun in the middle. So the blue sphere would be the Earth, and here's the equator. December, you could see the southern hemisphere here. This would be where you would expect to see total solar eclipses in the south. Okay, this will be important when you see where these paths occur on the Earth, given that a total solar and lunar eclipse occurs when the sun and the moon, if this little cursor is the moon, are smack dab aligned in the middle on the ecliptic. Okay, so if the Earth is tilting as they say, then you would see how it would be possible for the eclipse to occur down here at the southern hemisphere in December, when the north is tilted up like that, right? The equator is above at the maximum 23.5-degree tilt. And then in June, you would expect to see total solar eclipses up here on the northern hemisphere or the North Pole. Makes sense, right? But you'll see they're all over. They occur up here when the pole is tilted away, which is impossible. Paulster X, where he states all the comments are seemingly one-sided. I did respond to the first 3 comments in the order that they came in at first from him, and that was it. I didn't comment anything else because it's obvious to me that they're just trying to refute the truth that's provided in here. The major points in the video they can't confront. Picking up with my last movie here so that I can try and wake some of these people up that claim that they're open-minded and are of this ball earth belief and heliocentric model, if you will, that don't wish to see the fallacies involved. They constantly will comment and create what I would call straw man arguments to make their opinions seem valid. And as for all these basic trig and all this math that you want to use, I'm pretty sure the smartest person that our modern world is based on, Mr. Tesla, said it best. You can create a mathematical construct which has no relation to reality. So you can create a mathematical model which doesn't hold true. What I'm using is simple science, which is based on observations. I've just shown you observational facts that contradict your model. Now again, you go into all these things about the height matters. You can see further. Yes, we all know that, Brother Paul. A 6-foot person will see normally 3 miles, but if you put them on a mountaintop, they'll see farther. And then you're trying to say that, okay, that makes refraction possible. But you try to go on and say, well, it's not quite as simple as I make it out to be. There's these variables and other factors and this, that, and the other. And I just simply went back to what I showed in the video, which you can't debunk. The resolution of this refraction would exceed your mathematical parameters, and you know that. Now, Mount Everest, you come down here and talk about it, and see, you say there's jibber jabber and no content, and then you state, try reading your post. Where's the content there? At least I try to calculate the actual geometry of the situation rather than go on tangents about conspiracy and religion. Let me speak to this real clear. Anyone that has the time that wishes to find out, as I've stated before, this fella is not very open-minded as he claims, because he has seen this video and told me that it was a conspiracy theory. This platform removed it, gave me a strike on my channel, and labeled it hate speech. Now, people that like to back what the government claims or what the news media tells us will always call it something other than the truth.
Those people out there,
They'll always call it something other than the truth because they don't want to entertain the idea that they've been lied to. No sane person can watch this 20-minute video and conclude it's anything other than the truth they don't want you to know. It's not a conspiracy, it's a fact. To try and link this video again in the description because it's imperative that you understand this type of information. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. That's a fact. As for religion, I constantly bring it up because you're an atheist. I don't know if you've had any prior knowledge of the Christian religion. You're coming at this information and trying to prove it true with the math that they give you. Of course, you're going to get the same answer they give you. I'm trying to use common sense and observational science, if you will, to prove it's wrong. Within the perspective of the true Christian religion, which hasn't been stood up for in any church or by any person, I don't believe, since the 1800s when they begin fining parents for not allowing their children to be taught this ball fable. And I showed you in this last video of newspaper clips from that time period. So if you look at it from my perspective, you will see that what we are wrestling against is not flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, and what? Spiritual wickedness. Now, if there's only two schools of thought, there's the truth and there's a lie. And the Bible says that Satan is the father of all lies. Jesus is the truth. And you put on the full armor of God, you're buckled in the belt of truth. Okay? That's all I'm trying to convey to you here, friend. I've been praying and it's not working. I will promise you, Paul, if you'll sit down and say, look, I'm just really an open-minded person, and if God, you are real, please allow me to change my perspective and question what I've been told. You'll find the truth, and you'll come around to some of these ideas that I'm giving you. It's like you quote me here and say, I don't care if you were on top of Mount Everest, the observation can't be made. Based on what? Another statement with no substance? Do the calculation. Show why it could not work. Don't just say, do. Listen, do this. Go on timeanddate.com or mooncalc.org and set your location to the top of Mount Everest, and then take a 99.9% waning gibbous moon phase or less and find out when it will rise. Will it rise before the sun sets on Mount Everest? No, it always rises about an hour after the sun sets. This proves refraction is a lie. Because remember, if your false paradigm of knowledge is true, when the moon starts darkening during the horizontal lunar eclipse, it's less than 100% full, right? Right. That means it's a waxing gibbous moon phase of 99.9% at most. So therefore, if refraction makes it possible for you to view it, as in the video footage from New Mexico, high on a plane, as you want to claim, then by the very notion of your own logic and reason, because it's all a ball, it's all equal, right? You should see this opposite phase from Mount Everest. Find it, show it to me. No math involved, just a simple observation. Wake up.
The mirage is an interesting one, because this is probably one of my favourite points to make as a flat earther, especially when someone says there's no proof of flat earth. So I'll give you an example. We'll use Ranty and one of his images. So he has a picture of a clock tower at about 20 miles at Barrow-in-Furness, and it's just a picture of a clock. Now, as a flat earther, I look at this picture and say, clock at 20 miles. That's the end of my explanation. As a flat earther, I can make that statement. I'll say it again. Clock at 20 miles. Now, if you're a fundamentalist religious zealot, then that's not a clock at 20 miles. That would be a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified edge of a sphere based on an R value and a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to turn a clock which seems to be there into a clock which is not actually there. That's what you have to assert if you're a globehead. So it's not a clock, it's a holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified edge of an Earth curve based on a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. As opposed to me, that's a globehead explanation. I say clock, 20 miles.
I went over this in my last video. You can go over here and watch this footage of a horizontal lunar eclipse from December 2011, which shows the moon disappearing when the sun's coming up. Now look here. Your model claims that it's going into the shadow when it begins to disappear, right? Now, if you just go to mooncalc.org and search for that date, they claim at 2 a.m. the moon is at 100% full. Okay? That's what they claim. So this whole time that this footage is shown, the moon is already full, but it defies your model. See, only lies contradict themselves. The truth is always congruent. I put a lot of information in my last film, like the analemma of the moon. I don't wish you to take my word for this. The information is out there. You can find this data and put it in a spreadsheet like Excel, and then plot these points in a three-dimensional model if you have that capability. And you'll find that this stuff doesn't add up. This is why they always show us cartoons. They never put this stuff in real format that you can observe and analyze, because it doesn't work. Just like I pointed out, how the horizontal lunar eclipse shows us that Jesus was correct and the moon's giving its own light, because these phases, they tell us, don't match observations or any plotting on a three-dimensional type of map or structure. That's why when you see these anomalies that don't correlate, like I was showing in my last film, the ascending node of the total solar eclipse with the moon, and it wasn't tracking what it should do. Like it would supposedly be ascending, but their map showed it descending. Well, they can't contradict observations you can make with your own eye. This analemma happens every month, but they'll hide that fudge factor in their little scam of a map like they did, which I exposed. You have to think critically of the information you're given, and you can find these truths. But you have to analyze it. They're not going to present it to you and just lay it out there for you. You have to dig deep to find these anomalies. You know, ye that seeketh findeth. I've doubled or triple checked this here, so it's about as accurate as I can make it given the detail that you find on this map. But feel free to pause it and check it. Don't trust me for it. Do your own research and check this path out. as I plotted them over here on the flat earth map. Now I'm just asking common sense, okay? What makes more sense? This stuff here on this ball or these paths right here? Wake up, folks.